This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey guys, welcome to the Mailbag on the WWE Podcast. Let's get into those of you who sent us emails, and we might have a voicemail or two, although that's pretty minimal this week. And those of you who are patrons, of course, get the priority placement in the show. I don't think we have a ton of content this week. I think we might rock you through this quicker than we normally do. So let's start, though, with patrons. And let's start with somebody we haven't spoken with in a while, and that's Sharon from Israel. He says, "How are you? All hail King Gunther. I knew that he would win. He's the best wrestler in the world. He's so great that he's not wearing his goofy crown and acts like a fake king." I would agree. Both of the winners for the men and women, Nia and Gunther, are not doing your typical sudden transformation to, dress up. I appreciate that. They're carrying them. They may have worn them once or twice, and Nia may wear it a little bit more than Gunther does, but it's not your typical kind of just meaningless, goofy victory. So I like that as well. I am telling you, this year, the clothes of the women in the King and Queen of the Ring was outrageous. Rabbi Becky, Power Rangers Jade, and LA Knight and Orton in underwear. Come visit Saudi. Girls come with the suitcase. Boys don't need one. Yeah, I mean, I went over this too, and hey, the people in Saudi Arabia, nothing against them. They seem like nice people. It's we're the government, those that have the power in the Saudi Arabian government seem to be obviously the ones driving what is required and what's not. So it's not a slight against the people of Saudi, more of just the fact that we're supposed to be celebrating this country and pretending that it's some kind of vacation destination. And there may be some beautiful spots. I'm sure there are. I saw them. But the fact that we're supposed to just celebrate this country as some kind of emerging leader in women's progress or some kind of leader in the culture, again, as some kind of destination. No, it's not. How many people do you know, talking to everybody, that are going on vacation and saying, you're asking, hey, where are you going? And you're like, oh man, I can't wait. I'm going on my vacation in Saudi Arabia. The answer is no one. Nobody is saying that. No one. They're trying to make it that, and WWE is being used by the Saudi government to push their propaganda as like trying to reframe how people view Saudi Arabia. People know what people think about Saudi. And so they're using WWE as a platform to try to reshape that, how people view it, by showing only the best of the best, the destinations, how great it is, the stadiums they have, the buildings, the architecture, the beach, the sun, the palm trees. It's propaganda. That's all it is. Okay. Last thing. Did you see in NXT that Jordan Grace, or I think it's Jordana Grace, from TNA will face Roxanne Perez? Yes, I did. I did see that. I saw The Rock's daughter come out and announce that. I actually did catch that, believe it or not, for the very little NXT I do catch. WTF. Finally a crossover. What do you think we can see in the future? Maybe an AJ Styles return. See you later. Start working on pronouncing the right Scottish English. It's Glasgow with a Z, you arse. Glasgow or whatever. And I know that, look, there's a lot of English-speaking countries. It's not to say that they don't speak English there, like a lot of other countries. But there's different variations of English all over the world, even when you go from just New York State down to Florida, right? Or even New York to Virginia. They have different ways of pronouncing things, different accents. So it's not as if it's a totally different language. It's a variation of the language that I am not familiar with. Why? Because I live here. I don't live there. right? And I'm not obligated to say it correctly. Just as the things we say in New York, I wouldn't expect people in Scotland or anywhere to pronounce it the same way we do. And it is what it is, you know? All right, Throne, good to hear from you. Hope you enjoy the next couple weeks leading into Clash of the Castle. It's going to be a big one. And it's a quick turnaround. I mean, only a couple weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow is already our next PLE. All right. Let's go to our next patron. And DJ Kuzmo says, hey, AEW and W podcast world. DJ, back at it again on the Mailbag show. Another PLE has come and gone. Yet another PLE is in 2 weeks. Clash at the Castle. Having to watch these international PLEs at a different time rather than watching it live like everyone else is putting my phone on Do Not Disturb to avoid all spoilers. It's just part of the new routine that I'm still getting used to. No offense to the international listeners of this podcast. Yeah, it is a pain in the flat out pain in the ass. It is a flat out pain in the ass because if you pick up your phone at all, if you look at Facebook, you look at Instagram, you're on TikTok, you go to X, you're going to inevitably run into spoilers and it messes up your whole pay-per-view because most of us in the United States aren't going to be able to watch it live. We got stuff going on during the day, you know, and it's a pain in the ass. It is. However, we're going to get zero sympathy, from anyone that is overseas that is a wrestling fan, because for decades they have had to deal with this. While only in the last several months to a year or two, we've in the United States had to deal with this for only part of the year. So I would imagine that those in the UK, in we have some listeners in South America, South Africa, Germany, France, Scotland. Those of you out there, you're going to say, hey, welcome to the party. You get zero sympathy here. Anyway, in regards to the controversial finish of Orton and Gunther, do you think creative will revisit that weird ending by having some sort of rematch? Because Triple H mentioned in a backstage interview with Byron and that he is okay with the ref's decision to credit Gunther the victory. And at some point, we want to have a matchup of Gunther and Orton in the future. My only take on this is, why book a finish like that? Couldn't creative just book this as a clean finish since both guys are on different brands? And the loss doesn't hurt Orton since he's a future Hall of Famer? Just saying. That's what I was mentioning as well. I have continued to pound this point home, is if this finish was by design, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why? There's no shame in losing to Gunther, even if you're Randy Orton. You're trying to build Gunther. Orton he's bulletproof at this point. He will lose absolutely nothing, and there's only something to gain if it's a clean finish. Instead, if it's by design, creative was talked into, Triple H was, making sure that also Orton is protected here. Why? Why do I need to protect Orton? There's no need to. I love Randy Orton, one of the greatest of all time. But there is nothing left that he could do to hurt his career. And losing to Gunther in a King of the Ring, you think is going to be somehow damaging to his resume? Yeah, it made no sense. To me, it does taint Gunther's victory a little bit. I don't care what Triple H says. I don't care what the justification is. If it was by design and not by accident, then it's just a bad creative decision. Not a bad creative decision to have Gunther win, but a bad creative decision to have the finish be one that you could protect both stars when there's no need. I would agree. Overall, it was an okay PLE. It seems like Becky will be off TV for a long while, which is okay because she got a daughter. She's got a daughter, and there really isn't left for anything for her to do in WWE. I'm not a Liv fan, like most people, but this Liv and Dom and Judgment Day story is really intriguing to me. Let's see where creative takes this as we await the return of Rhea Ripley. DJ Cosmos signing off. Have a great weekend. See you all in the Discord chat for Friday Night SmackDown. Let me take this in reverse. Rhea Ripley and Liv. The moment Rhea Ripley returns, the roof is going to blow off the place. She is poised to have one of the biggest babyface runs in the history of the women's division. Maybe even bigger than Becky's was back in 2018 when they hit WrestleMania 35 and all that, right? So there's a setup, a big setup here. Liv is doing an excellent job. I love what they've done with her. Dom's playing his part well. And when Rhea comes back and Liv has really done everything she can in her power to piss off Rhea Ripley, taking her championship, now taking her man. Her revenge tour is complete, all that. Rhea Ripley's going to be on a tear, chasing Liv and chasing her for that championship and out for blood. I mean, she said she's coming back for blood, remember? I don't think initially Rhea's going to win the belt. This could be a long-term story arc to have Rhea regain her belt. I don't know if they're going to give it back to her right away, even though she lost it because she had to relinquish it. But it's going to be a fun story. I would agree. It's intriguing. As far as Becky Lynch goes, yeah, it seems like she is taking a extended leave. I hope that's true. I hope it's not some kind of red herring that's, yeah, we'll put that out in the reports, but she'll be back in a month. No. Becky needs, I mean, honestly, I mean, even to say this, I don't mean it as a slight to Becky, but if this is actually her retirement and she goes off into the sunset and she's done with her wrestling career, I think she has done everything she can do. I agree. There's nothing left for her to do. It feels like she's a complete career. It just does, right? She's done everything. She's faced everyone. She's won every championship there is to win. She's main evented WrestleMania, for God's sakes. So when you look at her, she can't sit back and go, oh, well, I can't wait till I get to do this or that. She's done everything. I mean, really. So to me, if she retired, I would say, I'd give her flowers and I'd say, listen, a job well done, a career worth gloating over, a career that is respectable, is one of the best of all time, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. It just feels that's I think what it is her character has felt stale. On top of the fact that there's nothing, you're not looking at Becky and saying, oh man, when is she going to be able to do this or win that? There's nothing left. She's also done the heel thing too, which didn't work out particularly well. And then she went back to the same character that she was at for, 4 years, and it's been bland. And I think that maybe that's what it is. Maybe that it's just, she's done it all. Now, that's not to say that she can't come back and find a way to be more interesting, maybe a darker character, something that I'm not thinking of that would intrigue me. But as it stands right now, if she retired, I would be like, job well done. Job well done. Hall of Famer. It feels like she's just complete. Now, again, I don't know when she's coming back. Maybe she's eyeing WrestleMania 41 towards the Rumble. I would imagine if she's saying extended, that could mean 6 months or more. That's how I would read into that. And she could be a surprise return at the Royal Rumble. That's maybe what they're eyeing as she gets closer to WrestleMania 41. Or maybe she just calls it a career and she just decides to be a mother. Nothing more important than that in my mind. Yeah, but I'm pissing off all the feminists now, right? What do you mean there's nothing more important than being a mother? Tell me when you're raising a human being, what could be possibly more important than that? I mean, seriously. Just as the father, But if that's what she wants to do, more power to her. If she decides this mother life is something she wants to continue forever, good, great. But I would imagine she's got gonna have the itch to come back. And I would eye Royal Rumble. Thank you, DJ. Let's go to Bad Fish, another patron. And he says, hey, Matt, I just heard the King of the Ring review, and I couldn't agree more about Cody. How do people cheer this guy? The only reason I watched the main event was for Logan Paul. His character is puke-worthy. Hell, Damian Priest is more like a champion than Cody. At least Priest doesn't cry in the ring and try to be everyone's friend. I wonder how long it's going to take for fans to realize that The Undertaker and John Cena can't be at every title defense and making it interesting. One last thing. Why is Logan Paul using the brass knucks on Cody so frowned upon? But when Cody was facing Brock with his titanium arm brace, or whatever that was, he could use it, and it was a heroic move to try and beat the Beast. Cody fans need to get their stuff together. Okay, well, actually, let me crazily come to the defense of Cody when it comes to the analogy about Cody using the titanium arm brace when he faced Brock Lesnar. The difference with that was he had to wear that because Brock broke his arm. The brass knucks are an optional accessory. Like Cody, in order to compete, has to keep that on as like for medical reasons. That was also, by the way, caused by Brock Lesnar, who quote unquote broke his arm. The brass knucks, again, are just it's extracurricular activity that's not needed to try to win a match. So that's the difference. But that's the only time you'll hear me defend Cody on that front. But you're right about Damian Priest. I relate more to Damian Priest, and I feel like he acts more like a champion that I can get behind than Cody Rhodes. Here's the thing. I don't think we're going to see Damian Priest champion much longer. I think his title reign's coming to a close, probably in 2 weeks. He probably is going to be a transitional champion. If they don't, I'll be okay with it. But also, I don't know if they can really lose here, right? Like Drew winning is a great moment. He finally gets his moment, but not only gets his moment in front of fans, gets his moment in front of fans that's at home for him. You cannot design a better time for him to win. So I would still advocate for Drew to win because I'm very intrigued by what a Drew McIntyre heel run looks like, on top of the fact Punk's going to come back shortly thereafter and challenge him, and Punk and Drew will be fighting one another for the title. But Damian, if he won, I wouldn't hate that either. Damian Priest has felt like a champion more than I thought he would. And he acts more like he acts more like a man. Even more importantly than a champion, he acts more like a man. That's a relatable guy. How many people you know that walk around in suits by choice? By choice. You know, dye their hair and whiten their teeth and get manicures and pedicures as a man. He says, sorry, not exactly something that I can relate with. And deep down, you guys know that I'm right. But somehow you're all enthralled by his woes and his fireworks and his quick wit on the mic. And he's admittedly, again, very good in the ring. Was he still the right guy to beat Roman? Yes, I still believe he was. Despite all my feelings aside, all of my negative feelings about his feminine character aside, I still believe he's the right guy to win. So I don't disagree with that. It's just cheering this guy from being a man, seeing a man act like this. It's nauseating. So yeah, I don't think I've made that clear before, right? I think it might be the first time you guys have heard me say that. Thanks, buddy. All right, Dino, let's get to it. From Scotland, he says, if you thought Backlash France crowd was annoying, just wait till they come to Glasgow. There's a group on Facebook where there's thousands of people who will be in attendance, and they all realize how rowdy the French crowd was, and they're all planning to up their game. The Scottish crowd was already very rowdy, but it's going to be even more so now. Expect, quote, if Drew loses, we riot signs. So yeah, there's a chance you're going to find it even more annoying than Backlash in France. Neither myself or my cousin drive, so we'll be getting the train, which is only a 20-minute journey, so we'll probably be home within an hour. How awful is... Okay, well, before I continue with your second piece here, I'm conflicted on this. Crowds now are trying to outdo one another instead of organically being loud because the product is awesome. It's more about now going into business for themselves. And I don't like, it's just the motivations behind it is, I think, the biggest problem I had. On top of the fact, it's obnoxious to listen to. It feels like they're just there, and wrestling is an afterthought, and they're more worried about their chants that they do at all their soccer games, or excuse me, you guys call it football games. It seems more like they're just there to mess with each other. And there's a wrestling match going on. Let's pay attention to that for a little while. Oh, back to our chants. I'm sorry, like there does reach a point where it becomes obnoxious, and it doesn't feel like it's about the matches. It doesn't feel like it's about the wrestling. It doesn't feel like it's about the product. It feels very much about their own agenda, their own chants, their own ideas, their own motivations outside of wrestling. And that's, I think, the biggest problem I had. So if it's going to be like that again, I mean, I appreciate the volume, but volume for volume's sake is not always better, even though Triple H will say it is, and he'll tout how loud it is and say there's like noise warnings or something. I don't care about that. To me, it's transitioned because of the crowd that France was, which again, I appreciate the energy, but the motivation behind it is what I question. I question it. And especially when you also get into a culture that I don't understand the language of. I mean, I just, that also doesn't help because it would have been better for, again, the English speaking world. Anybody else who speaks French, I mean, must have been a blast, or understands French, blast. But when you get to the people that only speak English, which is a large portion of their audience, it's obnoxious because you're sitting there going, how many times did people who only speak English sit there and go, what the hell are they saying now? Like, what are they singing? What kind of, like, it was obnoxious. I'm sorry. So if Scotland's going to do this, can you guys at least make it in English? I would imagine that most of Scotland speaks English, although with a very heavy accent compared to other. I mean, again, accents are always relative because I have an accent if I went overseas, but anybody who comes here has an accent. So it's always, you only have an accent if you're not speaking the native tongue, obviously. But if you can make it English, like, talk to your buddies, all right? I don't want Dutch. All right, I want English. I want English, please. So at least if you're going to try to outdo one another, even though I don't like the motivation for wanting to do it that way, it should be about the product because I'm everyone's overlord here. I get to dictate why people do things, right? I just think that it should be just motivated by purely wrestling and purely what's going on in the ring and not these ancillary, unrelated chants. Okay. I think I've said my piece and offended about a quarter of my audience. So that's always good. Good for business. Okay. How awful is Alicia Taylor? Having been watching and listening to her on SmackDown the past couple weeks, she sounds awful. She sounds barely like she even puts any effort into the announcements. And all of a sudden I find myself realizing just how good Mike Rome is. I guess it's only now that I realize she was brought to SmackDown, but hey, as you've been saying, there's an agenda to keep up with, right? And so unfortunately, the better announcer has been sacrificed, and it's due to the detriment of SmackDown, just in my opinion. In regards to Mike Rome, for me, this is a case of you didn't know what you had till it's gone. You know, you're starting to push past the wrestling part of things for me, but I've said this before. I know nobody wants to hear it because it's not about keeping about wrestling. Yeah, except it's now in your face, guys. It's in the company's annual report. It's something that they push. It's WWE's no longer a private organization. They haven't been in about 20 years, but even more so now. They're not owned by the McMahons anymore. They are owned by a large conglomerate that has its own political agenda, and that political agenda does include DEI. I've said that. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's true. You don't believe me? Go look at their annual report. You think I'm making it up or trying to be, oh, he's a conservative. No. Go look at it yourself. It's in black and white. Okay. And this, to me, was one of those hires. Now, could Alicia Taylor be an announcer? I think she can be. But when you replace somebody with somebody that's worse, somebody that's good with somebody that's worse, and then WWE calls and talks about and, promotes the fact that, wow, great, now we have the first ever dual black women being announcers. You kind of look at it and go, I get it. I see the agenda. It's very in your face, but you're not supposed to talk about it. And if you talk about it, you're racist, right? And I'm sure some of you are sitting there going, well, he's a white guy. Clearly he has, I don't have any issue. I was on the bandwagon of banging the drum for Samantha Irvin well before it was cool to do so. You can go back and listen. She has been, and I have said this for over a year, before it was cool to point out how great she is and all that. I've been pointing out how awesome she is, how much she adds to the product, how she's maybe the best announcer since Tony Chimmel. And I've been talking about it, right? I've been saying for Bianca Belair, hey, she is probably the best pure athlete WWE has. Jade Cargill has been much improved. But when I see things and I have a company in black and white telling me they're doing something, and then I see it translate to on air, I'm not supposed to mention anything. I'm just supposed to go, oh, yeah, they're here because of the credentials, right? Now, you could have somebody who's non-white obviously earned something, but the problem with this is when you have a company that has in black and white one of their agenda items, you see it implemented, and even if it isn't actually a part of that initiative, if it's somebody that earned it on their own merit, the problem with implementing that policy, even having it in your mission, is that now every time you see someone that's non-white, guess what you're going to think? Oh, are they a DEI hire? That's not fair to those who have actually earned it. Black, white, whoever. So now they have skewed the culture, especially in America, has skewed what merit is. And you've also looked at any of these hires and you've automatically think, oh, well, is it one of those hires? Right? Because DEI, and this is the last point I'll say, DEI is nothing more than a euphemism for make things less white. That's all it is. That's exactly what it is. But you don't want to know why? Because if it wasn't, you'd be hiring based on merit, which, by the way, you should be just doing anyway. I don't care who you are, how much melanin you have in your skin. I don't care. I just want the best of the best there. I could care less. Like, diversity for diversity's sake is not something that should be a goal. That should not be something that is aimed for. It should be based purely on who's the best person for the job. End of story. That's it. And if it happens to be a more diverse crowd, cool. If it doesn't, cool. You know why? Because the best should always be hired based on merit. Are you the most qualified? Are you the most qualified? That's the only damn thing that should be looked at. But, all right. So, but no matter what I say, those of you are going to sit here and go, oh my God, he's such a racist. I could care less. If you think that, you think that. I really, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. I don't need to sit here and prove it to anybody. But I'm saying the quiet part out loud. I'm saying what I'm not. I'm saying things that I'm not supposed to notice, or at least if I take notice of, I'm not supposed to say. But it's just the way it is of the world now. Politics have made their way into wrestling. They have made their way in. Nobody can tell me Alicia Taylor's better than Mike Rome. If you are, you're lying. And by the way, Alicia Taylor is nowhere near, like you now look at Alicia Taylor and you're comparing her to Samantha Irvin. Right? Even better. I think Samantha Irvin is better than Mike Rome. I think he is. Or she is, I'm sorry. I think that Samantha Irvin is, I don't know about a lot, but significantly better than Mike Rome. She's the best announcer WWE has. So when you go from Samantha Irvin to Mike Rome, who's good, to someone even worse, Alicia Taylor, now you're listening to Alicia Taylor and going, oof, that sounds bad, because you're used to Samantha Irvin doing such an outstanding job. And then you see WWE touting about how, two black women. It's like, come on, right? But the game is set, right? The trap is set where if people like myself, who are obviously white, mention this, and I point it out, you're racist, right? And of course, there's no evidence for that. And the system has been rigged so that if you do mention it, you can start labeling somebody as a racist. But it's obviously an agenda for those in the company, the higher ups, right? Those that are on the TKO board, right? Again, I know this is making some of you uncomfortable, but it just is what it is. So thanks, Dino, for probably pissing off a fraction of my audience, but I just tell me where the lie is. Tell me where the lie is. Anyway, moving on. Back to wrestling. What do you make of these long shots that they're doing every week now? I'm loving it. It's really adding to the show for me. My favorite so far is the entrance of Sami Zayn in Montreal a few weeks back. Just amazing. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I don't have a ton to say about it other than just I like them. That's kind of it. I hate to be a cop-out, but before we continue, I want to welcome some new patrons. Jasmine Foster, Isaac. Thank you guys for joining us. I know some of you are free members. Other of you have just jumped right into supporting the show. And let's see, I'll make sure I can get anybody else. We've got, I think that might be it. Dante Santiago, I think I already gave you a shout out, but if I didn't already, welcome. And Junior Riki, thank you. Junior, Dante, Jasmine, thank you. Alrighty, let's continue. Dino, And let's go to Freeman. He says, it's time to talk about Saudi. The location has its plus points and minus points. So let's start with a plus. I appreciate the women's dress code more and more. We get to focus on wrestling. They're so careful with the camera angles not to show us direct vagina. Oh, gosh. I think they go a little OTT, but they really could learn something for the normal show, especially with regards to not showing us exposing camera angles. It makes me think they only ever use the best cameraman in Saudi, or they go out of their way to show us intimate areas in the rest of the world. Oh, boy. All right. I'm actually going to have to disagree with you, Freeman. While I have gone on my crusade of not sexualizing women in wrestling, because I think that was one of the biggest problems with wrestling before the women's revolution was... or is that here's the issue. You're now advocating for a country to say men can wear what they want, but women need to follow this dress code and cover every part of their area except hands, feet, and their head. And that's not. I wouldn't prescribe to that. I don't want women wearing potato sacks to the ring. I have no interest in that. I also, at the same time, don't want them essentially wearing a glorified bra and panties, attire to the ring. I'd like just athletic wear. Big fan of that. And women's wrestling has done very well with that kind of mid-range of attire. I don't think this is a good thing to do for women to say you have to wear certain clothing. I think it's a double standard and not prescribing to that. Speaking of women, I was scanning in the crowd, and I swear the only women in the building were the ones in the front row and direct view of the camera. Same for kids, but I get they're harder to spot. The pandering to the Western audience is amazing. I don't understand why they do it, though, as I don't think anyone would notice if the women's front row parade wasn't there. I also found it funny when they did the camera pan to show them all off like little statues that they were on their mobiles. I'm guessing you mean their phones. I've never heard anyone say mobiles. Their cell phones, right? iPhones, whatever. Okay. Not paying any attention until they noticed the camera, and then they all tried to hide from it. Did they not realize they were there, were where they sat? Well, maybe it was done also as kind of a perception, a bit of a, it kind of aligns with what Saudi's trying to propagate to the Western world, which is come visit us. Women are doing great. And there's only like that thin row of women in the beginning, right, or in the front row, and they're there just kind of skew your perception, but then the rest of the audience has mostly men. Perhaps that's the case. I didn't really pay attention to that. Lastly, I'm going to have to call you out for being a hypocrite again. Yes, the special local celebrity getting involved in the Cody Logan match was completely absurd and shouldn't happen. I agree that no one knows who they are and no one outside of Saudi cares. Whoever in the WrestleMania match of Dom versus Ray this year, which was also decided by local celebrities getting involved, no one outside of the U.S. cared. So why would you defend one but not the other? All of us international fans don't care either way, and if it's okay for the U.S. to have a local celeb get involved, surely it's okay for every other country. No, I'm very consistent about this. I mean, if I didn't mention it about WrestleMania, I'm very consistent. I don't want celebrities. I think it's a general rule of thumb. I want celebrities nowhere near wrestling when it comes to deciding outcomes. I have no interest. I don't care if it's someone from the United States. I don't care if especially someone that I don't know makes it worse. And this dude in Saudi is constantly getting involved for whatever reason. It's obnoxious. I mean, so when you don't know him, it makes it even worse. But even if I do, and it's a local celeb in the United States, I don't care. I don't want them near wrestling because typically they make wrestling look like a joke. And also, they almost never take bumps. Usually, the celebrities are there to make the wrestlers look like fools. And that's always been a big sticking point of mine that I think is a bit of an embarrassment for the sport. So I'm consistent in this. I don't want like Snoop Dogg. I don't want him on wrestling anymore. I'm done with Snoop Dogg in wrestling. I especially didn't like him on commentary. Really didn't like him on commentary. And I don't like him in the ring. I don't really have any interest in Snoop Dogg. There's been very few celebrities that I think have pulled it off in wrestling, even for like a cameo appearance. So no, I'm not defending one and not defending the other. I think both, I don't care if they're an NFL player like Rob Gronkowski here in the United States. I don't care. I don't want them in wrestling. Unless, the only time I would say it's okay is if they're there to take a bump and make wrestling look cool. But that almost never happens. They are the ones who make the wrestlers look like idiots. So, no, I'm very consistent, and I'll stand by that. All right, Freeman. Let's go to two more. And one is from, let's see, Ollie. This is from Melbourne. Hey, Matt, hope the world's treating you well. Just want to write in and ask with the whole Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Dom love triangle. I was wondering if you'd like to see the return of Buddy Murphy, and if you think a return is possible. As a fellow Aussie myself, I would like to see this, but wanted to get your thoughts. Sure. However, I don't know what his contract status is right now. I think it would be awesome. Obviously, those two are, Rhea Ripley and Buddy Murphy are involved in an actual relationship. I believe they're engaged, if I'm not mistaken. Are they engaged? I think so. And, they constantly are posting pictures. Even Buddy Murphy posted a picture of Rhea Ripley's ass on Instagram. Oh, that was interesting. But sure, as long as Buddy Murphy is more interesting than his first go-around with wrestling, especially with WWE, that's fine. Bring real life into it. The only question would be like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, well, Rhea has been on air in a sexually charged relationship with Dom for the past year and a half, while at the same time, we knew that Buddy Murphy and Rhea Ripley were an actual couple. And then if you're going to bring Buddy Murphy in as Rhea Ripley's actual partner, boyfriend, fiance, whatever, to defend Rhea, to beat up Dom, well, it's like, well, okay, now you brought in reality, but now you also have to mix the fact that, wait, she's been with Buddy in real life that they're bringing into the story, but also she's been with Dom on air during the same time. How does that work? It gets a little messy. But I think ultimately fans might accept it. Yeah, I wouldn't. I like Buddy Murphy. I think he's one of the most underrated talent WWE had, especially during the pandemic era. I remember him having really good matches. But sure, bring it in, but it'd be hard to explain that because there's an overlap. You're bringing in reality, but have to keep the current story involved. It would be weird. Okay, let's talk to Ryan. He's the host of Somewhere in the Ring podcast. And he says, hey, Matt, I heard you talking about not going to SmackDown at Albany now tonight. Just want to let you know I'll be there with my dad, so we'll be sure to share anything crazy that happens. Your, quote, all-time favorite babyface Cody Rhodes did promise something special for the Albany crowd. We'll see if he lives up to that promise. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm probably not going. I still could. I'm sure there's tickets still available. So I still could go. It's unlikely, but if I do, obviously I'll let you guys know. The fact that Cody is promising us something special doesn't have me excited at all. Sorry. I mean, probably by that, what he means is he's bringing his stupid dog, right? Maybe he's going to put a new handkerchief on his dog. That's the surprise. Maybe he's wearing a new suit. I'm mocking it, but watch, it's something actually massive like The Rock or something. I don't even want to talk about it. So I'm taking a calculated risk here, no doubt. We unfortunately lost my mother about 2 weeks ago, so I thought going to a WWE event, which my father and I used to do in Syracuse when I was a kid, would help distract us both for at least a few hours and lose ourselves in the atmosphere of pro wrestling. Great memories going with him as a kid and hoping to make even greater memories this Friday. That's what I love about WWE and your show. It helps a lot of us just simply get through not only tough times, but just get through the regular days as well. I'll be sure to talk up the WWE podcast while at MVP and sending my best to all the regular listeners out there, Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan. And sorry to hear, obviously, about your mom. Tough stuff. But wrestling is like, and I'm glad that this show helps you. That's cool. It's kind of weird to hear. I'm just like sitting in my office, like you have no idea who I'm reaching, no idea, right? But wrestling is like a best friend that never lets you down. They're always there when you need them to get lost, to feel better. And if you just need need time to disconnect from reality, the wrestling's there. It's like it's a really good friend. So hopefully when you go, you're able to have it. Hopefully it's a great show. Hopefully you enjoy yourself, and by all means, if you want to promote the show, I'm not going to stop you. But I wouldn't expect that you do, because it's kind of weird, right? Like, how do you you're just sitting there and you're like, hey, you check out this podcast, check this out, right? I don't know how you promote it to random people. I wouldn't even as the host and creator of the show, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. I'm more of an introvert, believe it or not. And people always say to me, how are you an introvert? You have a podcast. Well, it's very easy. The podcast, I'm talking to myself. I have co-hosts, of course, but most of the time I'm sitting here in this room by myself, talking to myself. That's how. You can be an introvert and have a podcast. In fact, I would argue that if you're an introvert, you're better at podcasting, and more introverts are into podcasting because it's a perfect environment to do so, unless, of course, you have co-hosts and you're live in person, all that kind of thing. But so anyway, again, sorry to hear about your mom. It's hopefully it does distract you guys. And, just at least for a few hours, you can go and sing Whoa and watch Cody with his bleach hair, and maybe he brings his dog in, and maybe he'll cry for some unknown reason, and maybe he'll reveal who his father is, because we still don't know. We're still waiting on that big reveal. We have not heard. It's supposed to be a big payoff. I know that it's coming. They keep teasing it. Who's Cody's dad? We don't know. So hopefully those things are revealed and you get to see him smile and shed some tears and weep, And you know what? For all this mocking, I probably will eat my words, and there'll be something big happening tonight, and I will lose my you-know-what. I deserve that, right? But anyway, enjoy yourself. Get lost for a few hours, and take care. Thanks, Ryan. All right. That will do it here for the as far as the emails go. I'm checking my voicemail box right now. We don't get a whole bunch more. We don't get a bunch of them. You know why? Because I haven't read them or get to them in a while. I'm terrible, right? I haven't done the voicemail, so you guys are like, well, screw it. I'm not going to call in. I don't blame you. I've been awful at it. I do try to sneak them in here and there, but we don't have any voicemails. So that's embarrassing for me, but also I don't blame you guys. If I'm not going to get them on the air, then what the hell are you sending them in for, right? But you can take your chances. Sometimes I do have extra time, like I actually do right now. I'm sitting here going, oh, I actually would have played a few voicemails, but I don't have them. So, all right, that'll do it for me, guys. If you're going to the SmackDown show tonight, enjoy it. And I mean this in a selfish way. I hope it's an extremely boring show and that it's one of the worst SmackDowns of all time, because I won't be in attendance, so therefore I won't feel bad for not going. I'm sure that the rest of you are hoping that there's a big return or something kind of crazy happens or whatever. And you know what? For your sake, I hope it does. But yeah, so if you're going tonight, cool. Let me know if those of you like Ryan or others that are going, your in-person experience. I always value that. If you want to send me some just bullet points or whatever, that's your homework assignment. So that'll do it for me tonight, guys, or today. And I'll be back Sunday with the weekend review, hopefully with Anthony DeMarco. We're trying to link up this week. I think we'll be able to do that on Sunday night for the weekend review. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.